October 17th session of the Iamblichus reading group, we take up the issue of the infinite gods and their place in our lives and their role in the Theurgy rituals and practices. We also discuss meditation and various aspects of how we meditate ourselves. I hope you enjoy. Chapter 9 for you is kind of a reiteration of things that have been gone before, or is he adding any new information, do you think?
Yeah, no, not for me. It kind of seemed like he was talking about the indivisible, which kind of goes back to the one. Um, and it sounded a bit more simplistic, I think. A bit more kind of, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If there is no division and it's indivisible and is present and it's always there. So it just seemed a bit more simplistic, I think, than the other
Mm-hmm.
things.
He does seem to be kind of circling around again. I agree,
Mm,
because he does talk about the dime once again,
hmm
and I think for me, when I got to this chapter, I was really interested in how he is bringing it all back to the beginning, kind of not really the beginning, but kind of he's making I think he's making steps towards branching out into some other things, right?
hmm
So one of the questions that I came up with was how do we establish that the gods are out there? I mean, he keeps talking about the gods, and he talks about them as though they're in the world or somehow outside of ourselves. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people will say, well, God is just internal. But
hmm
how do we ascertain that the gods are somehow above and beyond us?
hmm Yeah, and like, and he talks about like the sun, the way that it does penetrate, its light penetrates all, but then it doesn't intermingle with what it penetrates. Like it doesn't intermingle with the air, but
Hmm.
it passes through and it is present there. So that was quite interesting because it's almost as if it's it's tangible, but it's intangible as well,
Hmm.
like the sun.
Hmm. I think he's trying to show that the gods, even though they're around us, they don't come to us, if you know what I mean. I
hmm
mean, they are above us, and they continue to stay above us because they're transcendental. They're
Yeah,
gods, they're goddesses. They
yeah,
they 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 wouldn't they don't become part of the human world. We have to become part of them. But then again, they do influence us. And it's
uh-huh.
like you're saying with light, light is here in the world, but it's not. I mean, it's influencing the world. We can see it, but it's not like it's here
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
the sun. The sun is out there somewhere.
hmm
So in the same way, the gods are interpenetrating, if you will, the world that we live in, we humans
hmm
live in.
Yeah,
But they don't become part of this world because that's not part of who they are or what they are.
yeah. And does he mean like when like if we call upon them or if we do get in touch with them, then they will penetrate into our being, and there will be remnants of the light like that remains. And the more that we do that, the more that we kind of do um become that, I guess. Is that kind of what he's saying or implying?
He wants to get to the point where I believe he can say that we are influenced by the gods and that we can raise ourselves up to where they are
Mm,
without them coming down to us. But,
yeah.
we have to prepare ourselves to do that.
Hmm.
We
Or
have
does it
to make.
happen? Yeah,
Hmm.
or does it happen incrementally? So even though we're doing we're whatever we're doing, and it is happening, it happens incrementally. So it's not like a one-off kind of event, like it's a lifelong process that happens bit by bit by bit by bit.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely happening bit by bit. You know,
Mm,
he doesn't think that we're capable. I guess unless we've been reincarnated from in this way, that we reached enlightenment, if you will, in another life, and we
mm,
choose to come back, then it's much easier for us to get back to where the gods are. But if
uh-huh.
we're not, then it does take. We do have to pre- cleanse ourselves, purify our souls, and make our souls amenable to this influence that the gods have, and that they can.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I kind of took that as both. Like even if we were not enlightened previously, but then we did come here to purify the soul. And as we do the purification, then the light does penetrate those parts of us and intermingle with us. So it's
mhm,
like a side by side process. And it's not that you have to fully purify yourself in order to get there. Like
mhm,
I don't feel like that's how it works. I mean, I don't
mhm,
know, but I feel like it happens at the same time. That's the whole idea of the purification process. So each bit that's purified gets intermingled with the light if it's done correctly. That's my take on it.
You look at the end of that chapter on page 41, and
Yeah.
then on to it's right at the end. He says, "It is my view then that the participants in divine influences are in each case of such a nature that they participate in them either through the medium of ether or of air or yet of water. And it is by observing this that the art of divine works makes use of correspondences and invocations, which have regard to such a system of divisions and relationships." He's making way there for our ability. The gods aren't, he's trying to say that the gods are not influenced by almost anything that we can do. That we have
Yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah.
it's all on our part, that we have to prepare ourselves to become one with them.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, so
And
what?
it's interesting.
It's not like it's not like the invocations are somehow provoking. Like this is what Porphyry was saying. Well, how come you can tell the gods what to do? By invoking them and asking them to
Mm,
show up and come down. He says, no, 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 that's not what's happening. What it is that the invocations is affecting us and making us prepared to
mm,
understand or at least feel the influence of the gods.
right, yes, yes. Well, that would kind of like, what I'm thinking in terms of if we're doing the purification, then that's our effort to kind of reach them. So it's not that they come down, but it's the fact that we've made the effort, and therefore it's opened up that space for that to happen. Because wouldn't that be the point of the purification process? Like I am doing it for that reason. I mean, that is my goal. I'm not doing it so that doesn't happen, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have
So,
to make the effort for sure, but it's like he doesn't want you to, he doesn't want us to think for some, because these are transcendental beings. He
mm,
doesn't want us to think that we can do anything to kind of push the gods around or to make
right,
them
right,
do
right.
anything. It's almost
Mm,
like in Christianity, they have, they have the separation between works and faith.
mm-hmm.
It's not like you can do anything to make God do anything.
Right, right,
It's,
right.
you have to, if you believe, and then God feels like, okay, well, you're worthy of doing something for you, then
Mm,
God will be the initiator. So I
right.
think in the same way, what he's saying here is that, yeah, if we make ourselves, through belief, through purification, if we make our souls purified enough, then we can become aware of the God's presence. But you might be right there in the sense that the soul has fallen, right? So the soul is not pure enough because it's fallen through, his whole theory of the soul and the whole Neoplatonic theory of the soul is that
Mm-hmm.
as it falls down from heaven, it accumulates all of these material things. It's like the soul becomes occluded, or um, it's like if it's a glass, if the glass is a soul, it gets all kinds of grime and dirt or whatever on it, and
Mm-hmm.
and then when it comes down to the earth, it's has all of this stuff on the glass so that it can't see properly. But
Yeah.
when we go through the purification process, then we can cleanse it and we can make it
Mm-hmm.
pure enough that we begin to see what it is that the gods are always here to show us. So we
Right.
can we can make that, you're right, we can make that effort to cleanse ourselves so that we can become aware of what the gods, I think he says, what the gods are doing all the time. We just
Mm.
need to become aware of it and allow us and cleanse our soul so that it can rise up and
Mm-hmm.
to the gods so that we can start seeing these things. And what it is, he says that the gods send us images. So we can start
Mm.
seeing images that they're sending us so that we can use those images then to kind of piece together how it is that we can make ourselves more and more pure to approach the gods.
Yeah, I see. And it's interesting how he talks about the medium of ether or
Mm-hmm.
air and water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why those two elements. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting.
How we're using material, how these material things, because that's another question that Porphyry was asking. Well, how can
Mm.
these things become in any way, how can they make us or bring us into proximity to the gods or goddesses? Because they're
Hmm.
just matter. Matter has fallen. Matter is
Yeah.
not of the same substance, if you will, as the gods. So what is it that allows that to somehow bring us in proximity to the gods? I mean, how does incense, for example, how does the right incense that I use, and I know by study, I know by revelation from the gods send these revelations. How how is it that that material thing can bring me into proximity to the gods or
Yeah.
goddesses? Because it's just matter. And so he's trying to show, well, it's because they have the power. Obviously, they're transcendent. It's almost like they can do anything they want to.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Sorry.
Hmm.
Yeah. No.
Oh,
Thank you. That's helpful. Yeah.
So I was interested in, I've been looking at this. I've been looking at this several ways, this cosmic sympathy in several ways. I've been looking at it from the angle of special, like extraordinary experiences, like extrasensory perception, being able to talk, communicate um, across distances and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to, I mean, because to me, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's like I have this need to really put these things into perspective like that. Like, what is there an explanation for these things? Do you find yourself doing that as well? Or do you find yourself saying, okay, well, this makes sense because I have experienced these things, and therefore what he's saying comes across very clearly?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like w- what what is it within my own experience? Can I confirm that within my own experience? And then I look at how that would make sense to me. Um, and if there is some familiarity or it makes sense to me in my experience, then I take it. If I don't really understand it or I haven't seen it for myself yet, I'll kind of put it on the side. But then I guess I ask the question, how? Like I'm
Hmm.
interested in the how. Like, okay, so then how can that be done? How can these connections be made or, going up this ladder or this hierarchy? Like how is it done? And that's what I'd like to know. Because it's one thing telling me that it exists, and then I have to see that for myself to know that that's true. And then I'd like to know, well, how do you do that?
Hmm. I think
Uh,
you've said in the
so,
past, you've explained some things. You said that it kind of just happens for you. Is that right?
yeah, a
Am I
lot of yeah, a
remembering?
lot of that's right. A lot of things have. So that's why, in my experience, I'm able to confirm a lot of things and say, well, that has been true for me. Or some things actually I haven't seen that for myself yet, so I'm just going to put that on the back burner for now. And at some point, maybe I will see that for myself in my own experience. If not, I'm not going to reject it, but I'm not going to take it yet. I'm going to take it. I am going to put it on the table though. But I am always interested in the how because I think it's the how that gets you there. Or I think it's the
Mm-hmm.
how that's able to help you recreate it for yourself and others. Like it can be conveyed because there must be something, like it can't just be random. I don't think it's random, although sometimes it looks like it's very completely random, you know, with the experiences that we have. Like, how did that happen?
Hmm.
Um, and is it random? Maybe. Can it be or was there a set of circumstances that led it to happen, but we just don't know what that was yet?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like that, because I think that there is a specific. I think there's many ways, but I think there may be some specific ways that can be recreated.
Well, you said that you have been able to recreate them, though, right? Um,
Yeah, but it's like to a certain extent or to a certain degree or not completely the same or
hmm.
similar but different like that.
Hmm.
And I think that that does seem to tie in with what you were saying in terms of what Iamblichus was saying. It's the God's choice, not yours.
Hmm.
So there might be
Hmm.
times when it's like, yeah, okay, there's an opening now for you. And at other times, well, actually, no, that's not available to you at this time. So yeah, it does seem a bit like that too. I mean,
They
I
are
do have.
giving us, we do have, I think you're right, though, that he is giving us a practice or a praxis that we can follow, a method. I mean,
Mm.
we haven't seen it yet because what he's doing is he's laying the groundwork
Yes, yes,
where
yes.
he needs to say, okay, well, it's really nothing that you're going to be able to do
Mhm.
unless it's this, maybe. Unless you
Yeah,
understand that it's this way and that it's really not you provoking the
yeah,
gods and goddesses to do anything, because that's kind of what he's, and when we get into it, that's what he is saying that these other types of magicians do. like
yes. Yeah.
like they're the ones who, and if you read their rituals, you can see where they're threatening the gods. They say, I'm going to make you do this, I'm going to, I'm not
Mm.
going to believe in you, I'm going to throw you into hell, these, that kind of thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And so it's like, I'm taking the initiative. It's through my will that I can move a god and
Yeah,
become a god or goddess myself. And Iamblichus is saying, well, you know, that's just a momentary. You might get an experience from that and think that it's the god and goddess, but it's not. It's actually it's a lower level being,
mm.
which is accomplishing something for you.
Yes.
So, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
if you follow this method, if you really believe and understand, and it has to do with gnosis, if you have the knowledge, then you can make yourself cleansed. You can cleanse yourself to come in contact with these other realities. It's interesting. I'm like you. I've had these I've had these experiences. I've seen entities, luminous, well, one luminous entity I've seen, and that was under no influence at all of any type of drug or alcohol or whatever.
Mm.
I've experienced, but then I've also had these experiences with drugs, which at times leads me to believe that it's not just the drug that's doing it. And
Yeah.
all of these things I want to say, okay, well, I want to experience those again. How do I do that? How does that happen? How can I do that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And maybe it is a fact of we're not the ones that can recreate that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the humbling point that you don't
Mm-hmm.
get to choose, right? Because magic, how they
Mm-hmm.
describe it, is manipulating the forces. You can get in touch with all sorts doing it that way, but
Yeah.
that's not the real deal. The real deal is you got to humble yourself and you don't get to choose. Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of that that rings true to me.
Maybe it's a much, because it seems if you, and I've had those experiences too where these things are just happening to me. Have I been chosen in some way to experience these things?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if I have, that's great. That's wonderful. But then
Yeah,
how do I get it to happen again?
that's right. And it's like maybe we don't get to choose that. Maybe we don't get to invoke the gods because it's not our choice, it's theirs. Yeah, that kind
But
of.
but we can do something, right? See. I think you've really hit on something. It's almost like a paradox.
Yeah, yeah,
We can't do anything, but then again, we can do something.
yeah, that's right.
You
Yeah,
you know? I mean, we can't force the gods to do this, but if we do this, then the gods will find us somehow uh,
yeah, yeah,
worthy of
yeah,
approaching or being revealing these things to us. And it's interesting. I mean, I'm just wondering. He's not. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've read through this several times. Trying to think what it is exactly that we're supposed to be given in
mm,
from the gods. I mean, union. I think I can understand the union. It's an
hmm,
overwhelming sense of peace, well-being, happiness when you're
yeah,
completely enveloped by this higher transcendental reality. And that's
Yeah,
something I do want.
yeah, of course. I think that's what we all look for is that peace at the end of the day. But then there seems to be something else that's unique to the individual. Like whatever it is that gets in touch with you will be different with whatever gets in touch with me. Whether it's the images that's conveyed or the message or some kind of information, it will all be very unique. I I think that has to do with individuality
That's interesting.
because it does seem to be personal in a way, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we would have the exact same thing, like
Mm-hmm.
conveyed,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't seem to be that way.
If it is unique, is that then as part of what will be revealed to you as you make your way up to union with the One? I mean, what is it that we expect to see? Um, is it like pictures of different types of like heavens? Is it like I've been caught up to the seventh heaven, as the Christian saint Paul said. You know, what is it,
Mm,
and what did I see there? What was going on there? Why would that be so interesting? Is it like I'm going to be able to see have angels going about their work of creation? What would I be able to see if I'm carried up to these different levels? And if I get in contact, I mean, even starting down at the ground, for example, if I get in contact with a daimon,
mm.
what is it that this daimon is going to show to me? He's not. I mean, Iamblichus never really says, I don't think, what it is that we can expect to see from these daimons.
Yeah.
I mean, is it something like a trip? Am I going to be taken on like a trip and see really, really cool colors? Cool thoughts are going to come into my head and that kind of thing. Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, could it be a combination of things as well as those kind of things? Could it also be knowledge that's specific to the individual that needs to be conveyed into the world? Something new, something fresh, something that's needed, maybe an invention, information,
Mm-hmm.
something along those lines. Because Iamblichus, the way that he's writing, it certainly seems like this is the type of knowledge that was
Mm-hmm.
conveyed to him. That's why he was able to write this book and pass it on. So I'm thinking along the same lines, as well as all those wonderful things and gaining knowledge of these higher dimensions, there may be something that's specific to the individual that needs to be conveyed to the world, into the world at this specific time, in this era, for ourselves and for others.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I'm open to. Not so much the experience or, these wonderful other dimensions. I mean, that would be great. But it's like, well, what does that mean for me? And how does that help me or other people? Is that really something that's mm, what I'm here for?
I think you've said this before. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. You've said that you have helped others, or you do help others in your
Yeah, so I guess
practice.
I guess that's maybe what I mean. Like, that's whatever it is that's individual to me, will that be conveyed more and more on a deeper level, like a deepening, for me to see more, for me to understand more, for me to have more knowledge or wisdom or whatever it is, as well as these other dimensions. Maybe it's what I need to know as well. But I think I think wisdom comes into it, because
Hmm.
wisdom is the truth, is the ultimate truth. And
Right.
it does seem to be individual. So for me, it would be different. For you, it would be different. And that, I think, because if you read these kind of books, it kind of comes down to wisdom. They don't really go into like the other things, do they? Like, what has the diamond showed me? How has it showed me his dwelling, or his, his land, or his dimension, or whatever it is? It doesn't talk about those kind of things. It talks about the wisdom that they've gained, right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, I know that recently, I mean, I've been on this for kind of a year, and I've noticed that from my beginning, I've been having these revelations, if you will. They're kind of self-revelations. They're not like revelations about the world yet. Maybe it will be eventually. But they're revelations in the terms of how my life, well, there are things that I've forgotten. I have a lot of years behind me, so you put a lot of things back in your head and you kind of move on. And those things didn't make sense back then, but now all of a sudden they're coming out from where I put them, and they're coming out and they're starting to make sense. And my life is beginning to make sense in ways that I didn't understand before. And
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
an experience that I had before, which I didn't understand at that time, is all of a sudden now coming out. And now I understand how it fits into my bigger, at least my bigger self understanding. Now, this is just on, to me, it's just on a very basic level of self understanding, of understanding who I am, and what I've been doing in this world for the amount of time that I've been here. But it's a
yeah.
small step.
So
I mean, and put into
I think that's part of
perspective.
it. Yeah, I do agree. I think that is part of it as well. Self-knowledge. Because if we don't get knowledge of the being that we are, and, you know, why we're here, what we've been put here for, the
Hmm.
skills that I have, the talents that I have, my strengths, my gifts, and how am I going to be able to use it in the world? And I think that is part of it. Know thyself. I think, that's definitely a
Hmm.
big part of it too, because you get revelations about your own self. You're like, oh my God, I didn't even know that was there.
Yep.
And yeah, that happens too. Absolutely.
It's been weird. I've been thinking of things that happened to me in my childhood and somehow putting those into place, whereas they didn't have any place before in my self understanding. Now all of a sudden they come back and I'm saying, oh, that's what that means for me. That's
Yeah.
what you, which is kind of pretty, it's kind of weird in a lot of ways. And then you begin to, at least for me, presently, then you begin to, your consciousness starts expanding in the sense
Yeah.
that not only do you see yourself like in this house, in this town, in this state, in this country, in this world, in this time, it starts expanding, and you start. You, I'm not saying like I've seen a lot, but I can kind of feel myself expanding a little bit to where I'm starting to feel kind of like there's a stream of time where which is above time, and I start seeing like where I am in this time and how it fits into like bigger time or even outside of time.
Yeah. And I guess that's part of the point of it as well, is it not? Like this expansion of consciousness. that the idea
Mm-hmm.
of this process at the end of the day as well,
Mm-hmm.
to know who we really are.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely,
In time and outside of time.
yeah, in all of those aspects. And you get to see that. And then you get to see, oh, yeah, I'm not just a body. Like, I see that now. And then if that's the body, then who am I? W- w- What do I make of
Mm-hmm.
that? Like, how do I get my head around that? And then you get to see
Mm-hmm.
that there is this expansion that goes on. Absolutely.
It really starts putting things into perspective.
Yeah, and that's why I say, like, I don't think it's like purification of the soul first and then you ascend. I think this whole process goes hand in hand because had this expansion of consciousness not happened, I don't think it would have happened without some kind of purification of the soul. Like there
Mm.
had to be increments of that happening in order for us to see that in the first place. So that's why I say it goes hand in hand. Like it not just like one go and then we ascend. I think it's
Mm. Yeah.
a, a slow process of ascension. Otherwise, this
Mm-hmm.
expansion of this awareness wouldn't have happened. That seems to be a direct consequence of the process that we're in and the
Mm-hmm.
effort that we're making.
What's interesting is that I didn't, as far as I know, all I was doing at that time when those things were happening to me, I wasn't really doing any type of method. I was just sitting down and meditating. I was trying to close myself off, of course, of extraneous influences and noises and that kind of stuff. But I, I wasn't really following any type of method, let's say a meditational method or anything of that kind. And then it happened. I think it's like it's really kind of strange. I think I'm afraid I'm going to lose that because that seemed to be so spontaneous. I
Yeah,
wasn't really thinking about it. It just happened.
there might be a clue there, right? Of not trying.
It's
And
almost
it's
like a
like,
Zen thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, trying so hard. I just always feel like I'm back at square one because of this trying so hard. But then when I'm not trying so hard, I guess it does seem more spontaneous because maybe that's the idea. Like, look, stop trying so hard.
Hmm.
You're doing great. Or, like it seems like there is that kind of feedback because the times that I do try hard don't seem to get anywhere, you know. So maybe there's something in that.
I hope that Iamblichus is going to reveal that to us, that if we follow this method, and I like what you're saying there, where they're going hand in hand. It's a purification at the same time that it's an experience. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I am saying that. Yeah,
So along with the purification comes the actual experiential part of it.
yeah, that would make the most sense to me. Certainly
Mm-hmm.
has been in my experience. It has been, as I go through this, is the more that this expansion of consciousness happens for me, the more that I'm kind of walking that path, or the closer I am in getting there than I was before. Certainly seems that way for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I do hope that he gives us something, because if he leaves us with nothing, I'll be like, oh, damn,
Well, it's what's horrible is that, yeah, I mean, the history behind this is really almost tragic
Mm.
because he had so much work, and yet we only have like one or two pieces of his work,
Oh
and we've
yeah,
been deprived of the rest of it because the Christians have destroyed it all. And I
right.
think they did it because they were afraid. I think
Mm.
he had so much to reveal, and he did reveal something really, really powerful.
Oh, I
And
see.
and I think that they felt threatened by that and destroyed what it was that he was working on.
Oh, wow.
I mean, because I think one aspect of this that I've been looking at is how to um, escape fate.
Mm.
One of the objectives of theurgy is supposed to be the ability to understand your fate, understand destiny, understand fate, and somehow change your fate. I don't know what I don't know whether it's change your fate, escape your fate, or something like that.
Yeah, like the way that I've heard it is the wheel of karma. Like
Yeah.
we come in and we just go round and round and round in the wheel of karma. And
Mm-hmm.
then the idea is to be able to transcend that karma, even though it can still be there. But the fact is that there has been enough purification, or there has been enough that's been done so that we are not going round and round and round in the same karma. Like we either have been in past lives or generationally or whatever. And enough is done to be now able to transcend that, and the ascension is happening, in a way that it's not such a struggle anymore. I think that there is a point that we can reach, and it's like samsara is the wheel of karma, samadhi
Mm.
is transcending it. So
You
I
think that's
think,
where he's headed?
I hope so. I hope he gives us something. That's what I
Right, but I
hope.
mean, do you think that's what is meant by escaping the wheel of fate or
I
the
think
wheel of
so.
karma?
Yeah. It sounds
So if we
very
follow
like
these methods,
quite
we
the
can.
same thing.
If we follow these methods, we can somehow
Do it.
break the shackles
That's it. That's
that
it.
are holding us into this cycle of doing whatever it is that we shouldn't be doing.
Or the cycle that keeps us stuck in that cycle. I don't know if certain things would change drastically, or maybe it wouldn't look like that at first, but certainly the shackles would be broken so that we're just not stuck in it anymore. And
Hmm.
I think that that's ultimately what we're all looking for. And it seems to be all of the other things that we spoke about are parts of it, like self discovery and knowing thyself and seeing all these other things that will be shown to us, and then the knowledge and the wisdom and the expansion of consciousness and breaking out of the shackles of karma. I think it's all part of it.
Hmm.
I think it's all aspects of it.
Hmm.
Seems to be what we're all looking for, I
For
think.
sure. Yeah, I think it is. I think that's
Ultimately,
the
yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
It's definitely the answer to certainly a lifelong longing, uh,
Yeah.
a longing of life, to find its place, true place in nature, in whatever it is that is reality, to find reality so that we can understand ourselves within reality and understand how to make decisions that impact reality in a good way rather than a bad way. All of those things, I guess, come into play.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And um I guess what I think what I'm looking for is a way, like some kind of way that works. and for it to be easy enough to do.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, putting in the work, like you can't disregard that. But it's like, look, it's short and proven. If you do it, you're going to get results. I think that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for, a free ticket. That's not what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for something that you give me a formula and I'll spend the rest of my life doing it. That's what
So
I'm
do
looking
you
for.
do you see this whole thing with the rituals? Again, we don't have any of his rituals, but
Mm,
there is the idea that they are similar to what we have. They're not similar to the ones that the magicians do, but
yeah.
they're similar enough that they can call it magical.
Yeah, but it depends on what you're invoking.
Mm,
I don't want to be invoking anything, right? And from a standpoint of God, there is no invoking.
mm.
He either comes towards the one that he wants to, or he doesn't,
See,
and
that's 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 the
he gets
crux, though,
to.
isn't it? Why
Yeah,
would I
yeah,
want to? Why would I want to invoke a daimon then?
yeah. I mean, unless God is sending that diamond. If he is, then so be it.
Mm. And the daimon is going to show me the path that I need to follow to continue progressing, to continue on my way to
Yeah,
God's revelation for me.
yeah. And if that is God's way for me, then that's the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, the way that I'm understanding the diamonds is like what they call the Great Spirit, or like in Christianity and Islam, they call the angel Gabriel. I
Right.
don't think I don't know if he was an angel, but I feel like he was the Great Spirit or a daimon, maybe. It sounds like that's what he was. He didn't seem like just an angel if he had such a big task of coming to, you know, Jesus and the prophets. It seemed like he was a daimon and he had this great status, and whatever he had to do, he had to take instruction from higher up and bring it down. That was what he did. So that's the way I'm understanding diamonds, and if that's how it is, then like for my personal way, then that's how it will be.
I think
But I
that I.
can,
Mhm.
sorry, carry on.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think we can understand the daimon in the same way that we understand an angel. Although I think he's going to give us a hierarchy of
Mm,
daimon, um, angels, and then archangels. So
yeah,
there will be a level of above daimon, which is an angel, etc. And then we can contact them for this continuing revelation, which is becoming clearer and clearer to me. I think it has to be something personal in one's personal relationship to the path
yeah,
to seeing the one.
yeah, that makes sense.
And I mean, even though I'm really happy to have like these really, really cool revelations of these like other realities, I guess that's part of the trip. I don't know.
I think it is. Like, I don't think it's not, because kind of makes sense.
Because these other realities are part of the greater reality, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. It only makes sense to have some knowledge and idea of it, if that's what's coming to you.
Right.
Like, because it may be something different for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, like I don't seem to care very much about other dimensions or other realities. Like it doesn't really mean much to me. And like my focus is how to get to the one that created me, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and continue on that. And I think that that is the one, like the ultimate one. And I tend to focus on that more than anything else. Like I don't know. I kind of think, what is the point of seeing other places? I mean, great if I'm shown them, but then what do I do with that information? Like, how does that
Mm-hmm.
benefit me or other people that's living this life and wants the same thing probably as what I do, which is to be with the ultimate one? Um, so I just don't really bother too much. It's not something I I guess I don't really it doesn't have meaning for me. And if there's other beings that get in touch or other entities, it doesn't really have any meaning for me. It doesn't give me anything that adds richness to my life and something that I can convey to others. And if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do that, then I just don't really pay much attention to it. I just don't really want to know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very focused on the path and the way.
Do you mind my asking if you have had entities, any types of revelations of entities?
Oh, I've had lots of different entities, and normally it's just nonsense that I don't really want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing that seems useful, you know.
Are they
And
speaking to you or just manifesting?
more manifesting, and
Mm.
that's kind of not useful anyway. And if
Right.
there's any kind of communication, I don't tend to do any communication because I don't really see what the point is. Because I
Hmm.
don't see them as having any information for me that I can't possibly find in the books that I'm guided to or led to.
Right.
Like, I always find my information that's coming from, like people like who wrote this book. That's why I'm reading this book because I'll
Mm-hmm.
find something there, not something that you're conveying to me. Because I don't really know who you are, first of all. I
Yeah.
don't really know where you came from, and I don't really know if I should believe you.
Yeah.
So
But
that's
this
why I
is
kind of.
this is occurring. Is this occurring naturally or is part of a process? Because last time it seemed like you were. Um, and again, I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Seemed like you were following a process that you were actually able to put yourself into a state where.
Yeah, yeah, they tend to be more personal, transcendent states. Like I guess meditations, but it's taking me through different. Um, it seems like layers of time for me when I do that, and
Mm.
when I'm doing that, which is basically a meditation, I don't
Mhm.
seem to come in contact with other things. But when things do come in contact with me, it's usually random. It's just, I guess I'd call it a psychic sensitivity.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that I just don't really spend time on.
Mhm.
And I also think that's why theurgy or magic, in terms of other than what Iamblichus is talking about, is so easy because it's very easy, I think, to get in touch with beings. I don't think it's hard at all. Like it seems to be as easy as maybe going to the front door and calling your neighbor from across the street. And if they're in their front door, they're going to hear you and come and talk to you.
Maybe for
Like,
you, that's easy. Might be easy for you to
oh,
say.
I don't know. Like, I feel like entities in general, like, I think that's why magic is so effective. because it's very not hard. I don't think it's very hard to do a ritual and to come in contact with them.
Yeah,
I think that's why lots of people do.
interesting.
I think that that's
That's
why when
interesting because I was going to ask that question. In fact, that's one of the assumptions of magic is that there are these entities, these beings that you can summon using a certain ritual,
mm,
magic ritual, whatever, and they will come. But a lot of people would say, "What? There are no such entities. If there are, then you're hallucinating them."
yeah, but then that's why you hear so many rituals and invocations, and they're all claiming that they're getting in touch with whatever they're getting in touch with. And I think that it's all true because it's that easy.
But they've
That's I
never
think
had they've never been able to record them. What if they start recording them?
yeah.
I mean, I would like to see that. I have had my own several experiences of entities. One which was um, amazingly powerful, and what I felt to
Mhm.
be from a better world, but also several from other worlds, which I was not so happy to see. You know,
Mhm.
um, basically
Yeah.
just scared the crap out of me. That if
Yeah.
this exists, then there has to be a better way, because this is horrifying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you do believe that I mean, that was going to be one of my questions for this session was, do you believe in the existence of these entities? And obviously you're saying yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm saying yeah. I mean, for me, it's without a benefit of a doubt, but not only because of my own experience, but also because I just know that we don't just have this world. Like I'm pretty sure of it. Even even before I had experience of any entities, I just knew that there was more than just this one plane of existence. I knew that to be true.
Was
And
this something, how far back does that go, that knowledge?
I just think if there is a God, because I know that he's real,
Hmm.
then his creation is going to be vast. That's just what I
Yeah.
knew to be true. And if it's vast, if you look at this world and you look at the plant kingdom, like it is so vast you can't keep up. And then you look at the animal kingdom, kingdom, and then you go underwater and you look at the sea. I mean, it is so vast, it's so vast, it's so vast, right?
Mhm.
It only made sense to me for there to be more to creation and other forms of creation. And that's how I knew it was true.
Hmm. And this has been
And
something with you since
yeah,
ever,
since
since
yeah,
forever?
yeah, I think so. I think so. I think it was um with the question of why am I here or who am I? Then you kind
Hmm.
of think of all of these kind of things. Yeah, and I must admit, it was the latter years that then I started to understand the higher beings and what they would call the daimons now, or the gods, or those kind of planes of being. I didn't really see that for myself or know that until later. Then I got to see, oh, so if creation is that vast, there's doesn't seem to be just a fourth dimension. There's definitely a fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, or however many. I don't know. Right. But that's when that kind of expanded. It came into my awareness like, oh, yeah, that would make sense too.
Hmm.
So for me, it's without a doubt.
Yeah, yeah,
Without a doubt, all of them
yeah.
are real.
Interesting. I mean, I know I have moments of doubt that these entities exist, even though I have had my experiences with them. And I think ever since I was a child, I always was interested in ghosts, and I'm just one.
Mm,
I always thought that I was in contact in some way with ghosts when I was a child,
yeah.
for one reason or another.
It
And
seems like a sensitivity, like some people just have that sensitivity, and that's probably what you have.
yeah, I mean, it's hard because you shut yourself off
Yeah. And
from that
I think,
because
yeah, like when we're young, and then there's like the conditioning comes in, and that's when, you kind of get shut off. So yeah, for me, in my teens, I was very much shut off, like, very conditioned until, experience started to happen. So I think we all are quite sensitive. I think all of us are sensitive as children, and then we forget, and then we're cut off, and then we start to remember again, maybe.
hmm well, life doesn't help. I don't think. You know, having to work and having all of those things have to intrude themselves. It seems.
I know, and I kind of think, I feel like if we had more time on our hands, I for me anyway, I feel like I'd get somewhere rather than keep
hmm
going round and around in the same
I
cycle.
know, right?
I feel like, life gets in the way, this gets in the way, there's distraction,
Yeah.
distraction, and distraction. And it's like, well, when do I ever get a chance, you know?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
do think that that is the one of the hardest things that we're facing in this era, not
hmm
having the ability or the facilities or the time or the finances to focus on this in the way that
hmm
we may have liked, or where we feel like we can actually get somewhere.
hmm
It is really, really, really difficult.
So many distractions going on.
Yeah, too many.
Technology doesn't help.
No, it does. It definitely doesn't.
It's supposed to, but it doesn't.
Yeah. Not for this type of thing, because I think it
Mm-mm.
adds to the noise, you know?
hmm
Energetically, I mean energetically as well, because with all these, like being inundated by the Wi-Fi signals, it really kind of seems to create a lot of white noise what in the vibrational frequencies that we're trying to get in touch with
Hmm.
or focus on.
hmm
I think that definitely makes it harder as well. And I think that we may need an updated, I mean, if we do find some kind of a method in this book that, gives us some kind of leeway, I also feel we need an updated version for this
Yes.
era,
Yeah.
for how do we break through this type of distraction, because I think it's harder now than it was, 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, because they had a lot of time on their hands.
Well, I know I'm writing. I do write my own rituals,
Uh,
which theurgic rituals, which I've learned
uh,
from my other readings, and I do pray to the one. I do pray to Hecate as one of the major goddesses of the Trinity
hmm.
of the Chaldean oracles, and then also the Christos.
All
And
right.
so I do write rituals for them, and as part of that, I think I'm following, at least from my understanding, I'm following somewhat the theurgic practices which, Iamblichus and Proclus have set out.
Ah, interesting. And do you think that that's helping, or you've noticed?
I
Um,
do believe they are helping. I
mhm.
do believe that I mean, I've had several experiences where I'm coming into contact with higher realities. But again, it's this thing where you can't think that you're doing it,
Oh yeah.
that you have to be opening yourself, allowing yourself to be open completely to the experience of the God or the
Right,
goddess,
right.
because
And
otherwise,
yeah,
otherwise it doesn't work.
yeah. And do you mind if I ask, what it is like? How do you do it, or what's involved, or because I'm not very familiar with
It's,
the rituals.
they're very simple in terms of praying, saying prayers. I write my own prayers.
Mm,
I write my own steps within the practice itself. I also
mm.
find things and I incorporate those old prayers sometimes into what I'm doing. But it's a matter of also lighting a candle. I do make incense. So
Oh,
I create my own incense for the ritual.
right, right.
Um, and then there are certain vows. One of the things that I've learned from theurgic practices is using the vowels.
Mm,
Um, ah, a, e, o, u, ah,
mm.
and different combinations of those are supposed to be able to open up your spiritual sensibilities, sensitivities, and
Right.
um, and then I do a breathing exercise as well, which is something I learned from my mom. She passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and when as she passed, she had this breathing going on that was
Oh, wow.
it was just I felt as though it was like the breath of the universe breathing through
Oh,
her, and so I do incorporate that as well in the practice, where I
oh,
do three
interesting.
three breaths on and three breaths off, and at the same
Right.
time I say faith, truth, and love.
Ah, I
Th-
see. I see.
those are the
Okay.
three. Those are the three angelic presences that Proclus talks about, as well as the Chaldean oracles.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So I do invoke them as well while I'm doing my breathing exercise. And
Mm-hmm.
it's during those where I have had interesting, and if I allow myself to open up, not feel as though I'm controlling it,
Mm.
the presences do come and open up my mind to and my soul to different things.
Ah, wonderful. That does sound really, really good.
I
And
mean,
yeah,
mhm.
sorry.
Well, if you wish, I can share some of that. If I mean, I don't want to impose on you, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm quite interested. I'd like to know about the breath because it sounds very like it's resonating with me, like when you
Hmm.
spoke about your mom. And when you said the breath, love, and what was the other one? The
It's
third one?
faith, truth, and love.
Oh,
Those
yes, yes.
those are the three. Those are the three theurgic virtues.
Yeah,
So,
that resonated as well. Yeah.
so for each breath, so I take three breaths in and then three breaths out, and for each breath, I say faith, truth, and love, and then faith,
Ah,
truth, and love, and I use
okay,
that as
okay.
kind of a mantra.
Yeah, yeah. That
W-
does that's resonating with me as well. That does sound very,
And
very
mhm.
nice.
I mean, I can write that up and send it to you if you wish.
Yeah, yeah, that would be good.
Okay.
And when you said the breathing that when your mom was passing? Was that like a sound or the way that you breathe, like you did the breathing, or what was that like?
Well, when she was breathing out and in,
Hmm.
it just felt as though it was the breathing in of the world and the breathing out of the world. It was the
Right.
soul somehow breathing in life and then expelling this world and then breathing in a new world as she
Ah,
was
so it was just
passing.
yeah, no, that does sound really, really like true. Like I'm feeling a lot of absolute truth in when you're saying that. And is that just like an in breath and an out breath,
It,
or
it's
was it a
like
specific
three
way?
breaths. It's like taking it in and then three breaths out.
Ah, so it was three in breaths taking it in,
Hmm.
and that would make one in breath.
Yes.
Ah, I see.
And
Okay,
then
okay.
one, and then three breaths out, and that would be one out breath.
Ah, okay, okay. Wow. And that happened just before she passed, or as she was?
As she was passing, it was,
Wow.
yeah, it was very powerful. And
That is, yeah, that's quite
I mean, I
fascinating.
felt, her whole, it's like her whole body was illuminated.
Oh,
There
wow.
was this incredible light that was emanating from her
Oh, amazing.
as she was. It was like she finally had the final freedom of letting go,
Yeah.
and it was pretty amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sure. Sure.
I think I'm gonna try that one actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we can call it a session.
Yep.
Thank you, Farjana. This has been really illuminating. I've really
Thank you,
enjoyed
Chad.
it, and it's been really, I learned a lot. I
So
mean,
did I. Thank you.
just being able to talk about these things with someone who understands is really important, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you very much.
Thank you too.
We'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you, Chaz. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Farjana. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.